It's definitely nothing like any other Porsche, for sure. It is difficult to drive fast. Anybody can get in and just cruise around. I mean, the clutch is hard to get used to at first for most. Yeah, once you get it up to speed, the car is really well balanced. Back in the day, you know, older Porsches, they had a reputation for spinning around, for oversteer. And they kind of developed their newer cars to not have that issue. Well, this is kind of more old school and stuff, and with the V10 in the back and the way that it's balanced and how stiff the car is, it can spin around really easy. But that's what makes it exciting to drive, you know, for those that are drivers that, you know, really want to experience a car on the edge to its limit. This is hands down the most fun, for sure. When I came here, it was actually with a band, with a group, but it didn't work out, and it was difficult, obviously, because I had really nothing. You know, next thing I know, I'm living in my car with my sleeping bag and my guitar, and just living in LA, you know, kind of trying to make the best of everything, trying to find gigs, trying to work, trying to make money, collect a paycheck, you know, stuff like that. So it wasn't easy. You know, after hanging out at a music store for a long time, they were like, hey, you're here so much, why don't you just work here? And so I got a job besides, you know, playing music, working at a music store, and then that's when eventually I just kind of started my own music business, so to speak, kind of spun off of that. When I got my first car, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to start collecting cars. You know, my dream actually was to get a Carrera GT someday. You know, I had been around Porsches since a little kid, and I can remember, you know, getting a ride as, you know, 9 or 10 years old into a 911T or whatever it was, and then I remember at 16, my friend's mom letting me drive their 928. You know, so I remember those experiences. I remember being around Porsche, so I was always a fan. As life went on and I started kind of having the means, so to speak, I thought, wow, you know, why not get something really cool? And so the Carrera GT was kind of always on my mind to get one. I think the racing, you know, racing was probably always in my blood, even as a kid, and that's why I was probably pushing to drive other people's cars. But when I bought my first Porsche, when I was pretty young, it was an older car, it was used, I got into what they call, you know, slaloms and just trying to get good times. And then I met people from POC, which is Porsche Owners Club, and started hanging out with them and started going through their program and just got into it and slowly developed my passion for racing and got into better cars and so forth, and it just kind of grew from there, and now it's a big part of my life. I think a big part of it is, you know, for a lot of people, it's the companionship and, you know, the big family, as you say, but it's also a big adrenaline rush and racing and competition and doing well and so forth. And yeah, it's just, once you start doing it, it's really hard. It's like a drug, you know, you're waiting for the next event and you're preparing for the next event, and even though you might be fully prepared, you're still finding ways to prepare, you know, so it's something that you think about, I think, every day, at least for me. This was at an auction, and it didn't sell for what they were trying to get. And back when these were new, the sticker on them was around $448. And so this hit, you know, they had then dropped for a while. The publicity on this car was not that great. This was long before the Paul Walker thing, but just, you know, the clutch had a bad reputation, and it was, people, you know, heard it was hard to drive. So they were difficult to sell when they first came out. And the used ones were, you know, in the threes. And so this went to auction for, I think it stopped at $350, and it didn't go through. And then afterwards I had heard about it, and I contacted the dealer, and we made a deal, and afterwards, and I got the car. And that was probably, I want to say, a good 12, 13, 14 years ago. I love manuals, but I also love the paddles, and I love sequential boxes, and I love everything. You know, shifting is fun for sure, but for me, it's more about the feel of the car and how it reacts to steering input, and you know, taking corners and kind of just being on that edge, how the car feels. And this car, it's very nervous, it's very twitchy. You know, you can go around corners, and if you hit bumps, the car almost hops right out of place. You know, and it can be unnerving, but that's what makes it exciting to drive. You know, where a lot of the other exotics, they're fast, they handle well, but they also have a sense of comfort and give you a sense of security. This car gives you no security, you know, no real comfort at all. It's all about the experience of feeling like, you know, the exhilaration and the adrenaline, and that you're on the edge, and you better pay attention to what you're doing. You know, any other car that I get in, it's more about going out and having fun and being with my friends and going through the twisties and some canyon runs, and maybe about the destination and all of that stuff. For this car, it's all about driving this car. You know, it's not about anything else. It's just about experiencing what this car feels like. It's so different than other exotic cars that I've driven, at least. It's the most fun, for sure, by far. Clutch is difficult to get used to at first for, I think, most people. You know, and being in race cars and stuff, it was no problem because, you know, like in the Cup cars, I can just pull away without any gas and just, you know, slowly let out the clutch. And this is kind of the same thing. You know, you don't give it gas, you just slowly let out the clutch, and it goes. And you just have to trust that it goes, even up, you know, going up on a hill if you're on an incline, you know, and so forth. So it's no problem. And once you get used to it, it's just second nature. Yeah, and then I find in my other cars, I'm not giving much gas, if any, as well, just because I'm in the habit of letting out the clutch without throttle. I would say that it's the closest thing to a race car that I feel, because of how stiff it is and the steering input, the response. It's very close to like a Cup car feel. What amazes me is how good it looks even after 20 years. I mean, the car is 20 years old, and that's a testament to Porsche design. You know, the sound, the history of the car, it's, you know, where it came from, the design, it's all, you know, together, just the best. You know, when I'm with friends and going through canyons, I am pretty conservative, because I don't want to draw somebody to try to have them keep up with me, and of course there are various levels of drivers out there and stuff, and I don't want to ever feel like, you know, I maybe have contributed to somebody losing control of the car. When I go fast in this car, it's usually when I'm on my own in the canyons, or with another semi-pro or pro driver, you know, we're having fun together. Then we go all out because, you know, I trust him, he trusts me, and we're just having a good time, and we pick up the pace a bit, for sure. I know a lot of GT owners, actually, and we don't talk about the problems with the car really, because there is none. You know, we just talk about how amazing it is, and everybody says, "Oh, I'll never sell this car, and it's my favorite," and you know, so it gets high marks for sure among other GT owners, and you know, whenever we go for a drive, they're always getting out with smiles. You know, it's like, yeah, this car is awesome. I have a CGT certified mechanic basically come here, and he does all the work to it and so forth. But it's pretty, you know, maintenance free. Yeah. It's you know, it's not like other exotic cars that I have where it's a lot. You take good care of it, and you know, you do the basics and so forth. It's great. It's a Porsche, so you know, it just definitely doesn't. It's not prone to problems. I'll have it until I can't get in and out of it anymore. Just the God honest truth. I mean, and maybe even beyond, you know. It's, of everything, it would be the last one to go, for sure. It's like, you know, the old style Formula One cars, really high pitch, the best sounding car, I think, out there. You know, I know that the LFA sounds great too, and there's a couple of others, but, you know, it's just, there's no mistaking the sound. Just sounds great. I wish, if anything, I wish it was a little louder in the cockpit, but you can still hear it, and it sure sounds good when I'm following another one. I think, you know, I'm definitely always open to other brands and other cars and stuff, and you know, I've been racing cup cars forever, but I jumped into a Ginetta, LMP3 car, and that was just such an experience, So I'm always open-minded. I've grown fond of McLaren. I like the 4 GT, but I think, Porsche, just because of the long relationship that I have with racing and the cars that I've had, I don't think anything will come close to the passion that I have for that particular brand. There's no comparison to taking any street car on the track to, driving a real race car. It feels heavy, doesn't have the stopping power, it just doesn't feel good to me. And I've taken everything out there, including this, but when you get into a real race car, that's what it's designed to do, and it's just at a whole different level. So, I have no desire to take the exotics on the track. I like to enjoy them on the street where they're meant to be. Like to have fun with them, kick out the back a little bit sometimes, and have a good time and stuff like that. But I'm not like, how fast can I get from point A to point B? People definitely, they love it, and they want to talk to you about it. And of course, they always bring up various incidences of the past. I like going to the shows because I like to see what else is out there and so forth. But for me, it's going to the show and coming back, and what road am I going to take, to get there and back. It's not necessarily being there, but it's a good excuse to get out and drive it. I think, a lot of proclaimed media car experts and attorneys, they say that this is the most dangerous car ever made, which makes it even more exciting for me to have, honestly. But that is like really interesting, and I get where that comes from. And there's definitely, as we all know, have been some bad accidents. But honestly, life is a risk, in everything that we do, and it's the risky things that bring, I think, the most enjoyment in life, and when you take those risks. And this car, to me, is kind of the epitome of living in the fast lane and driving like something that is just scary and having fun with it.
This is Pro Audioland. They're an online retailer that's been created by musicians for musicians, and they provide top-of-the-line customer service and same-day shipping, and they carry brands like Fender, Jackson, Ibanez, and PRS, just to name a few. So if you're looking for live sound, cases, pedals, or a new guitar, or a new bass guitar, Pro Audioland is the place for you. Be sure to check them out at www.proaudioland.com.